Chapter 10, Section 8, Part 2. Kind of a little glitch in the video there. I'm going to finish this section here, but pretty good break here for this to look at powers of I. And um, so I'm going to start over. I did start this a little bit in the prior video, but we're going to look at powers of I. In the following discussion, they're going to really kind of point out some pattern stuff and sequencing and all kinds of things that happen with exponents, especially when we're dealing with a simple number like -1. And that's what they point out. Is saying, well, I squared, is equal to a -1. So I can break out. Basically, here they're saying, well, I can break out any exponent, right? I to some exponent. I can break that out into different types of multiplications of I, right? And then they point out this -1 thing. It says, well, if you have -1 to an even power, it's always a +1. And if you have a -1 to a negative or to an odd power, like to the third power, you end up with -1. So using this information, we can set up a strategy to work with higher exponent values of I. Okay. So to simplify I to the 30th power, we could say, well, that's the same as I squared to the 15th power. And because of the exponent rules, we can do that. Which would mean I'd multiply those two x power of a power, right? I'd get back to that. Now, why did they take I squared? Well, we know the real number value for I squared, so they basically separated that out and used power of powers. So they substitute in for I squared a -1. Now, that's why they reminded us about this even and odd thing. Well, -1 to the 15th power is going to be, that's an odd amount. If I think about that, every pair of -1 times -1 is a +1. So if I have those pairs or even numbers of exponents, even numbers of factors, right? Exponent is how many times is that base a factor in this multiplication. I'd have, in this case, one -1 not paired. So I have 1 times -1, or I end up with a -1, right? Or the easy way to say that, hey, I got an odd exponent. -1 to some odd exponent is a -1. Okay? Example 8 here. Simplify I to the 49th power. And now there's two steps really to this. One is, if I don't have an even exponent, it's not going to do me any good to take a -1 out to begin with, and we can talk about that in a little bit. So what they do is they say, well, we could say that 49th power is I times I to the 48th power, which is I times I squared to the 24th power. So they need this to be even, so I can do a power of a power on I squared, because I squared, again, is the thing that I know a real number value for. So I need to set this up in terms of I squared. Well, once I get this to the 48th power, I can take power of a power. It's always going to have to be even, because 2 times anything always ends up to be an even number. Okay? Well, they make it even by taking I to the 1 power out of that. So here's my new multiplication and power of a power. Well, this is going to be I times a -1 to the 24th power. You have to do exponents first. Hey, this is even, so I end up with -1 to the 24th power is 1. 1 times I is I. Okay? Let's look at example 9 here, A. I have I to the 24th power, which is I to the 2nd power to the 12th power. I get -1 for I squared, and it's even. I get a +1. This one, I have an odd exponent of I have to take I time. I need this to get even so I can take get a relationship with my negative 1, which is I squared. And in this case, I get I times I squared times the 37th power, which is 2 times 37 is 74. Well, I substitute in for I squared a negative 1. I get negative 1 to the 37th power is a negative 1. So I end up with a negative 1 times I, or a negative I. And that's it. And I think, like I said before, when we were dealing with the square root portions and stuff like that, to me, working with that would be, there might be some advantages of saying when I see a negative, like the negative square root of negative 5, I could say that's the square root of I squared times 5. Okay? And then I can have a multiplication. I can break that out into two different square roots and deal with it, and my order of operations intact. And like I cautioned, that caution they have in there about is you have to take care of your imaginary numbers before even exponents. Okay. So that's the last section of this chapter. I'm going to, we're going to have a typical chapter test after this with a proctor. I've announced some things about what our final is going to be. I'm going to have one more video, which is going to be an instructional video more about how to approach this final, which is going to be over multiple days. It's like an open book final with, you can stop the sessions and come back and work on it. You could spend the entire 3 days working on your final if you want in different, I would hope that you wouldn't have that working on it the entire time, but you could work an hour and take a break or come back the next day and work on it some more. But specifically, when you submit the test, that's what I'm going to go through in the next video, is to make sure that you do not submit the test. If you submit the test, hit that submit button like you do when you finish, the other sessions where you've done tests, you only have one session. You have to finish that test in the session. You finish it by hitting the submit button, and that will end the test. So I'll have a video specifically with a sample test up. I'll talk about how to get in and out of the test to make sure that you can come back and continue to work on it if you want to. And also you need to submit at the end of this thing. So probably what I would expect if I was going to do it, I would probably not even submit the test. Even if I think I'm done, I would not submit the test until it's due. And because maybe something will come to you later and you say, oh, that question they were talking about, I'm pretty sure I did that wrong. You'll have the opportunity to go back and look it up in the book, make sure that whatever you're thinking is in the right track, and correct that as long as you don't submit. And then the other thing is, please submit at the end, or you won't. I will not have a final that I can determine is done and start grading. So again, another video coming after this about strategies and the proper method to deal with this final that's coming up too. So good luck with chapter 10. You got several days to do retakes on the quiz. I recommend that you do that. I've not unexpectedly found that most students that do multiple attempts at those quizzes, they usually get better each attempt. You're getting different problems, you're getting more practice at it. But it should be really, if you approach it with the fact that take it like a test, especially that first time. Take it like the only resources you have is as if there was a proctor right there with you and you could only do it that way. Take your first attempt at your quiz that way, and you're going to point out where you have some weaknesses that you're not prepared to do in a test environment. It'll give you places to study or shore up some of your skills, and then go from there. But enough about that. I'll make another video and Good luck with chapter 10.